All right, today we're diving into the neuroscience behind a paradox that, let's be honest, probably feels pretty familiar. Why is it that we can dream so big, but then end up doing, well, absolutely nothing at all?
I mean, have you ever done that? Set some huge, exciting goal for yourself, only to find yourself totally stuck? Like you can't even take the first tiny step? It's so frustrating, right? And you're definitely not alone in feeling that way. Millions of us go through this every single day.
But here's the thing, and this is really the good news. It is not because you're lazy. Seriously. The research is super clear on this. There's an actual neurological cycle happening inside your brain that's actively stopping you from getting started. It's biology, not some kind of character flaw.
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to look at the work of a researcher named Tim Pitchell. This guy has spent decades studying this exact problem, and what he found completely flips the script on what we think procrastination is. It turns out it has nothing to do with time management. It's actually an emotion regulation problem.
And it all boils down to this thing called the avoidance loop. Here's how it works. You face some big, difficult task, right? And your brain immediately starts pumping out negative feelings, dread, anxiety, overwhelm. So to make that bad feeling go away, you just avoid the task. And guess what? You get this instant hit of relief.
So let's just walk through that one more time. Step 1, the task triggers dread. Step 2, you avoid it to feel better. Step 3, you get that sweet, sweet relief. And here, this is the most important part. That relief acts as a reward. Your brain loves rewards. And because our brains are wired to repeat anything that gets rewarded, that whole avoidance loop just gets stronger and stronger every single time.
So, what's actually going on inside our skulls when this is happening? Well, you can think of it like an internal battle, a war for control between two really important parts of your brain.
Okay, so in one corner, you've got the amygdala. This is your brain's alarm system, its threat detector. It looks at that big project and treats it like a saber-toothed tiger, just screaming, "Danger! Avoid this!" Then, in the other corner, you have what we can call the action CEO of your brain. The scientific name is the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, or DACC. Its job is to hear that frantic alarm, take a deep breath and say, "Okay, I hear you, but we've got this. Let's go."
Now, when you procrastinate, what's really happening is an amygdala hijack. Your emotional alarm system basically stages a coup and takes over, completely overriding your rational CEO brain. And the crazy thing is, every time this happens, you're not just putting off the task. You are literally, physically, strengthening the neural pathway for procrastination. You're training your brain to make it the default response.
But here's where it gets really sneaky. Your brain is smart. It knows that just sitting on the couch doing absolutely nothing is going to trigger guilt, right? Which is another one of those bad feelings it's trying to avoid. So what does it do? It comes up with these brilliant disguises for your procrastination, making it look like you're being productive.
And two of the most common disguises are perfectionism and something called productive procrastination. Perfectionism is pretty straightforward. It's that fear that whatever you do won't be good enough, so you're just paralyzed and never even start. And it's a real thing. Research has actually found that professors who are perfectionists tend to publish less than their peers. But the other one, productive procrastination, this one is extra sneaky.
This is when you swap that big, scary, high-stakes task for something that feels productive, but is actually safe and low stakes. So instead of, actually starting your business, you'll read 10 more books on how to start a business. Instead of applying for new jobs, you'll spend another hour polishing your resume for the 5th time. You're doing something, so your brain gets that little hit of accomplishment. Researchers call it short-term mood repair. But the needle on your real goal hasn't moved at all.
Okay, so now that we know all this, how in the world do we fight back? How do we actually break this powerful automatic cycle and get our action CEO back in the driver's seat?
Well, according to all of Tim Pitchell's research, the answer is, and he actually calls it this, embarrassingly simple. You just have to start. That's it. The goal isn't to finish the whole thing. It's not even to do a good job. The only goal is to begin, just for a few minutes.
And there's a really practical two-step method to make that happen. First, catch and name the feeling. The moment you feel yourself starting to avoid something, just stop and acknowledge the emotion. Say it out loud if you have to. "I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now." Just the act of naming it helps pull you out of your emotional brain and back into your rational one. And second, make the first step stupidly small. I mean ridiculously small.
Your goal isn't write the essay, it's open the document. The goal isn't go for a run, it's put on your running shoes.
I know. This probably sounds way too simple to actually work, right? But there's some really fascinating research that shows exactly why this tiny action is so incredibly powerful. So, in one of Pichel's famous studies, he gave students pagers. Yeah, pagers, this was a while ago. And he pings them throughout the week to track their feelings about a big project. Early in the week, they were all justifying putting it off. Oh, I work better under pressure, all the classic excuses. But then, when the deadline got close and they were forced to start, their entire perspective flipped. Get this, not a single one of them was happy they waited. Every single student said they wished they'd started earlier, and they all said the task was nowhere near as bad as they'd imagined.
And that's the whole key right there. The dread of starting is so much worse than the reality of actually doing the task. Our brains, it turns out, are just terrible at predicting how we'll really feel once we get into motion.
Which brings us to what I think is the most powerful idea in all of this. You're not avoiding the task itself. You're avoiding the feeling you think the task is going to create. You're avoiding a bad feeling that's just a prediction. And as the science shows, that prediction is almost always wrong.
So the next time you feel yourself getting stuck, just remember, it's just an amygdala hijack. It's just a faulty prediction. And all you have to do is interrupt that loop. Name the feeling, and then take one tiny, ridiculously small action. So I'll leave you with this. What's that big thing you've been putting off? And what's your stupidly small first step?